I've asked Taylor to take care of the house, but I told her to call a helper if there's any trouble. I'm only giving her the bare minimum responsibilities. Well then, I'm off. My son Ryan said as he left for his 5-day business trip early in the morning, carrying his luggage. I watched his back as he walked away and started preparing breakfast. Cooking has been a struggle since my stroke, but thanks to researching simple recipes and easy housekeeping methods, I think I can manage somehow. Taylor, my son's wife, and I ate breakfast quietly together, and then I got ready to go to rehab. After a while, I heard the sound of her leaving the house, having finished getting ready before me. She's off to play already, huh? I knew this would happen, I thought to myself. She puts on a good face in front of Ryan, but the truth is she doesn't do any housework at all and just goes out to have fun. Amazed but not surprised, I headed to the rehabilitation facility. When I returned home after finishing my rehab, for some reason, the front door wouldn't open. I couldn't stand it any longer and rang the doorbell a few times. The door opened quietly, but for some reason, the chain lock was on as if to refuse entry.
Hey, Taylor, you're home, aren't you? Can't you let me in?
I asked, bewildered. Laughter could be heard from inside. You can barely do any housework, so you're just in the way if you're in the house. If you want to sleep, there's a sleeping bag Ryan used to use in the garage. Why don't you use that? She said mockingly and slammed the front door shut with force, kicking me out. I couldn't comprehend what was happening or why things had turned out this way. But then it occurred to me that this might be an opportunity in disguise. At that moment, I sorted out my feelings and made a decision. All right. I won't go into the house. But don't complain about when or where I sleep, I said to the firmly closed front door, not caring if she heard me or not, and slowly walked alone down the dark street. My name is Samantha, a 55-year-old housewife living with my son Ryan and his wife Taylor. Before getting married, I had a normal job working as an average office worker. While working at the company, there were encounters, but few romantic ones. On weekends and days off, I spent my time partying, introduced by a colleague who joined the company at the same time as me. That time, we gathered at a restaurant near the station, 4 women including myself, my colleague and her friends, and 4 men. One was running late due to work and was on his way. When my friend and I arrived at the restaurant, only 3 men were there. 5 minutes later, as we were talking and eating, a man in a suit arrived. I'm Patrick. Sorry I'm late, he said. Compared to the other men, his face was kind-looking rather than handsome, and he wasn't particularly tall. However, as I sat across from him and we talked, I learned about his hobbies and his considerate personality. The more we talked, the more interested I became in him. The other members seemed to be aiming for the most handsome man in the group. Normally, I would have set my sights on the same person as everyone else, but today I felt strange and couldn't take my eyes off him.
Does Samantha really want that guy? That average-looking, ordinary man?
The opinions were a bit negative, or something like that, perhaps because my choice was so unexpected. But no matter how many negative opinions were expressed, my feelings didn't change. All right, if Samantha is that serious about it, we'll support her too. As we were discussing what to do next after finishing the first round of drinks, I seized the opportunity when the other members were distracting the men and pulled Patrick away from the conversation to a slightly secluded spot. I'm sorry, I think I'm a bit drunk. Could you come with me to the nearby restroom? On cue, my colleagues urged the men to go ahead to the next bar, leaving Patrick and me alone. Are you okay? If you're feeling sick, let's get you to the restroom quickly for now, Patrick said with concern in his voice. Actually, I'm not feeling sick or drunk at all. I'm sorry for deceiving you like this, but I really wanted to be alone with you. I confessed, feeling a twinge of guilt for my little white lie. So you're not feeling unwell? That's a relief. I was worried about what to do if you were really feeling sick. Anyway, I'm glad you're not feeling ill. Even though I had tricked him into being alone with me, Patrick didn't scold me for lying. Instead, he was genuinely worried about my well-being. His kindness made me feel even more apologetic, but at the same time, my affection for him grew.
I'm sorry, but if it's okay with you, would you like to start over and have a drink with just the two of us?
I asked tentatively. For a moment, he looked taken aback by my invitation, but perhaps it was just his way of hiding his shyness. With an embarrassed expression, he accepted my offer. From there, we moved to a quieter setting like a bar, enjoying our time alone together. We talked about each other, sometimes listening to each other's work complaints, gradually closing the distance between our hearts. Feeling pleasantly tipsy, I stumbled, and Patrick caught me. In that moment, the way he looked at me was too much to resist. I pressed my lips to his, and we became one. A year later, despite our colleagues saying our relationship wouldn't last long, we brushed off their comments and finally got married. For a while after our wedding, we continued working as a dual-income couple. But when Ryan was born, Patrick expressed his wish for me to prioritize childcare and household duties. Taking his words to heart, I quit my job and devoted myself to supporting our family at home as a housewife. I hoped these happy times would last forever. However, that blissful period came crashing down with a loud noise one day. It was 3 years ago. After graduating from college, Ryan got a job at a local company. While working diligently as a full-fledged member of society, he married a woman named Taylor, and it had already been 2 years. Just when I thought even greater happiness was in store for our growing family, Patrick was involved in a traffic accident on his way to work and passed away. It happened right after we were talking about how he would likely live a long life, given his energetic nature. The incident was so sudden that, honestly, I couldn't believe it until I saw Patrick's deceased body. Apparently, I kept mumbling to Ryan that he must have just been injured. I don't even remember that myself, but they say the moment I saw him at the hospital, I let out a loud cry and broke down in tears. For a while, I couldn't recover from his death and spent my days in a daze. But as I looked at his portrait, smiling at the camera, I thought I saw a momentary flicker of sadness on his face.
You're right, absolutely right. If I keep crying forever, you won't be able to rest peacefully in heaven, will you? I understand. I'll live strongly for the both of us,
I declared, feeling like he had passed the baton of vitality back to me once more. Fortunately, thanks to the money he had been saving at the bank for our retirement and the insurance he had taken out in case of emergencies, we had enough savings to live comfortably as long as we didn't indulge in luxuries. Moreover, Ryan, worried about me, suggested that the three of us, him, Taylor, and myself, live together as a family. And now, here we are, living under one roof. Ryan worked from early morning until late at night, and Taylor often went out with her friends who lived nearby. The two of them were rarely home, leaving me to handle all the household chores single-handedly. However, the joy of being able to support my family outweighed the challenges, so it wasn't too difficult for me. In fact, I found happiness in being useful to my family. But there was also a concern gnawing at me. It was about Taylor. Like me, Taylor had been living with Ryan as a housewife until now. When I started living with them, I wondered how she would manage her life. To my surprise, she neither took on a part-time job nor helped with the housework. Instead, she spent her time freely hanging out with her friends in the neighborhood. Ryan probably knew that she was just playing around all the time, but for some reason, he never scolded her. On the contrary, he even gave her money. I found myself unable to comment on her behavior for quite some time. You see, during the family meeting for Ryan's wedding, I met Taylor's mom, Olivia, for the first time. We hit it off, bonding over the shared circumstance of having lost our husbands. Since then, we've become close friends. Because of this, I haven't been able to say anything to avoid causing unnecessary worry for her as well.
Using your mind is more exhausting than using your body, isn't it?
I thought to myself, feeling the mental strain of an inexplicable frustration and the pain of not being able to confide in anyone about my troubles. Then, one day, it happened out of the blue. As usual, I prepared breakfast for Ryan and Taylor and saw Ryan off first.
I'm going out with my friends again today, so please take care of the house. I'll be back in the evening,
Taylor said before leaving shortly after Ryan had left for work. Watching Taylor's retreating figure, my day began. I cleaned the sink and its surroundings, and in between, I proceeded with the housework in the order I had predetermined, such as doing the laundry. After washing the family's bedding and vacuuming, I lifted 2 full garbage bags to take them outside. At that moment, my vision suddenly blurred and a strong dizziness overtook me. I lost my balance and collapsed on the spot with a dull thud. When I woke up, an unfamiliar ceiling stretched out before my eyes. My body felt heavy from the neck down, and I couldn't move properly. Somehow managing to move just my neck, I looked around and noticed an 4 connected to my arm and a machine measuring my heart rate. It seemed I was in a hospital. Perhaps someone had noticed something was wrong and called an ambulance for me. As I was trying to assess the situation with my freshly awakened mind, a nurse came in. Seeing that I had regained consciousness, she went to call the doctor. The doctor arrived, and I received an explanation of what had happened to my body and why I was in the hospital. "It's a stroke," he said. A stroke. The intense dizziness that caused me to lose consciousness was apparently one of the symptoms of a stroke, likely caused by my chronic high blood pressure. It turned out that a neighbor who had visited by chance called the ambulance for me. They heard a loud noise from inside the house, and since the door was unlocked, they entered to find me collapsed on the floor. The heaviness I had felt in my body since waking up was likely caused by the stroke. As time passed, sensation returned to my left side, but my right side still wouldn't move as I wanted it to. According to the doctor, when I collapsed, my brain suffered a strong impact, damaging the area responsible for controlling the right side of my body, leaving it paralyzed. However, with rehabilitation, I could apparently regain at least the minimal movement necessary for daily life, even if it wouldn't be the same as before. So, I decided to focus on rehab during my hospital stay. A month later, with blood, sweat, and tears, I continued my rehabilitation and somehow managed to walk slowly on my own. I would have to keep going to the hospital and rehab to treat the paralysis on my right side, but considering it was to avoid living an inconvenienced life in the future, it was no big deal. During my hospitalization, Ryan was busy with work and sent me a text apologizing I couldn't come to visit you, along with words of concern. The ones who came to pick me up when I was discharged were Ryan and Taylor, who hadn't visited me even once. "Thank you for coming to get me. Was work okay?" I asked Ryan.
It's fine for a day or so. I took care of various things while I couldn't come to see you,
he replied. "Samantha, are you all right?" Taylor chimed in from behind Ryan. For now, I decided not to think about her. While Ryan was loading the luggage I had used during my hospital stay into the car, she just watched, fiddling with her smartphone. I had recently started to wonder what my son saw in someone like her.
Come on, let's go home, Mom. To make up for all the care you've given us until now, I'll be the one helping you out from now on, so don't worry.
Ryan reassured me. Even though I was finally going home after being discharged, I couldn't help but feel a little anxious. However, Ryan's words cleared away that anxiety like a single ray of light piercing through my darkened heart.
I'm sorry, Ryan, Taylor. I appreciate it.
I expressed my heartfelt gratitude. Ryan responded with a smile, but out of the corner of my eye, I could see Taylor's expression looking somewhat displeased. And so, I finally returned home. Thanks to rehab, although I was still slightly lacking, I could do things for myself as long as I took my time. Therefore, I don't think I caused too much trouble for the two of them. The only times I needed their help were with difficult tasks for me now, like carrying heavy objects or reaching things in high places. Other than that, I tried to do as much as I could on my own. Dissatisfied with only moving during rehab, I did housework with the sole desire to return to a state as close to my former self as possible. Perhaps out of consideration for me, Ryan started coming home at 6 p.m. instead of working from early morning to late at night as he used to. He also began actively helping with household chores, saying he hadn't been able to help out until now.
Mom, I just need to add the seasonings as written on the memo, right?
He asked, referring to the memo I had written while cooking, unfamiliar with determining the flavors himself. Sometimes he mistook the types of seasonings and messed up. But he seemed to enjoy the challenge, thinking positively that failures are a part of trying new things. As for Taylor, although she stopped coming home late after hanging out as she used to, in line with Ryan's earlier return, she still went out to play when he inevitably had to work late. Ryan probably thought she was taking care of me, but I knew it would be troublesome if I told him the truth. It wasn't that I was being considerate, but given the current situation, I wanted to avoid troublesome things as much as possible. One night, while somehow managing to do the housework as usual with his help, he told me something. Due to work circumstances, he had no choice but to go on a 5-day business trip. During the trip, he said, "I'll leave the house to Taylor for now." However, he didn't know that she gleefully went out to play every time he was away from home for work or other reasons. Taylor probably put on a good face in front of Ryan, but after he left for the business trip, she would likely not do anything around the house as before. Instead, she might spend even more time going out to play and possibly not come home at all. More than worrying about myself, I was anxious about what might happen in the coming days. With that unease in my heart, time passed, and the day arrived when he was leaving for his trip.
I've asked Taylor to take care of the house, but I told her to call a helper if there's any trouble. I'm only giving her the bare minimum responsibilities.
Well then, I'm off, Ryan said as he left early in the morning with his luggage for the 5-day trip. Watching Ryan's back as he walked away, I started preparing breakfast for two, thinking Taylor would probably eat too. Cooking has been a struggle since my body became like this, but thanks to researching simple recipes and easy housekeeping methods to support my family, I think I can manage somehow. In my current condition, using a knife is dangerous, but I was amazed to discover that with the latest kitchen gadgets, I could cook without using a knife. At this rate, I might not even need Taylor's help. I'll try to do as much as I can on my own. Just as I made that resolution, Taylor woke up from the bedroom, rubbing her sleepy eyes.
"Oh, Ryan already left?"
she asked.
"Yes, he's gone. Let's do our best for these 5 days, Taylor. By the way, are you going to have breakfast?"
I replied. "I'll eat," she said curtly. And so began our temporary 5-day life together, just the two of us. We ate breakfast quietly, and while I was getting ready to go to rehab, I heard the sound of Taylor leaving the house in a hurry, having finished getting ready before me.
She's off to play already, huh? I knew this would happen.
I thought to myself. I took a taxi to the rehabilitation facility, and after finishing my 2-hour rehab session, I went to a cafe adjacent to a nearby library to read and drink coffee. Before I knew it, it was evening by the time I started heading home. When I got home, for some reason, the door wouldn't open. I rang the doorbell a few times, but not understanding the situation, I couldn't stand it any longer and contacted Taylor. Then I heard footsteps from inside, and the house key turned quietly, but for some reason, the chain lock was on the door as if to refuse entry.
Hey, Taylor? You're home, aren't you? Can't you let me in?
I asked, bewildered, calling out to Taylor, who was probably on the other side of the door. Laughter could be heard from inside.
Oh my, Samantha, what's the matter? Did you hit your head when you got injured and mistake where you're supposed to return to?
Taylor asked mockingly, making me feel a momentary terror. What on earth was this person saying? At that time, I couldn't understand the true meaning behind her words.
I'm not mistaken. Come on, let me in quickly. What on earth are you trying to do?
I demanded.
You can barely do any housework, so you're just in the way if you're in the house. If you want to sleep, there's a sleeping bag Ryan used to use in the garage.
Why don't you use that? She said with a mocking face, then slammed the front door shut with force, kicking me out. I couldn't comprehend what was happening or why things had turned out this way. But then it occurred to me that this might be an opportunity in disguise. She had never done any housework and just played around until now, spending time as if she had been home when Ryan came back from work. I had endured it until now to avoid causing unnecessary worry for my good friend Olivia, but honestly, I had reached my limit. At that moment, I sorted out my feelings and made a decision.
All right. I won't go into the house. But don't complain about when or where I sleep,
I said to the firmly closed front door, not caring if she heard me or not, and slowly walked alone down the road at dusk, the sun having completely set. I realized now that I had left my phone and everything else except my wallet at home, thinking my only plan for the day was rehab. With this, I had no way to contact Ryan. Since I couldn't get in touch with him, I stopped a taxi that happened to be passing by and asked to be taken to a certain place. After a 20-minute drive, the place I was heading to was Olivia's house, where I had greeted her and visited a few times before. I thought it might be a bother to go at this hour, but with nowhere else to go and believing she was the only one who would directly understand my current situation, I came prepared for the rudeness and inconvenience.
Huh? Samantha, what's wrong? Why are you here so late at night? Oh, by the way, is your injury okay?
Could you please let me inside the house for now? I'll explain the situation properly later. Olivia asked, surprised by my sudden visit but warmly welcoming me and inviting me into her house. I loved the atmosphere of this home, which retained an old-fashioned charm and felt somehow nostalgic and comfortable. No, that didn't matter now. With her help, I was somehow led to the living room, and despite the late hour, she even served me coffee and entertained me. She seemed to have contacted Taylor after seeing me, but apparently, Taylor's phone was turned off and she couldn't reach her.
So, what on earth happened? I can't get in touch with Taylor either, and seeing you here at this hour without any luggage, did something happen at home?
Olivia asked. I confided in her all the anxieties I had been holding in my heart until now. How Taylor, since getting married, didn't help with the house at all, how she was always going out to play while Ryan was at work, and how her behavior hadn't changed at all even after I became like this. And how I was driven out of the house by that very Taylor. I laid bare to her everything I had endured, saying, keeping it pushed down inside me. She seemed to have had no idea that her daughter was living like that at her husband's parents' home. From visiting a few times, I realized that she was a worrier when it came to Taylor. She had asked me several times before if she was doing okay at home, but each time I had brushed it off. However, with this incident, I decided to confide in her, thinking that if I kept minding her tendency to worry, my own well-being would be in danger. Olivia seemed shocked, unsure if what I had told her was true, unable to process it in her mind. While she collected her thoughts, I decided to borrow her phone and call Ryan to explain the situation. Although it was already late at night and I thought it might interfere with his work, I felt I had to tell him today, so I called Ryan with a glimmer of hope. "Hello," he answered.
"Ryan? Is now a good time?"
Actually, I recounted the day's events to Ryan in order.
"What? No way, Taylor did that? And she never did anything around the house until now? She always boasted about working hard, but it was all a lie?"
It seemed he had only been aware of her usual behavior through her own words and had completely believed her convenient lies. I could sense his agitation even over the phone. After a few seconds of silence, as if sorting out the information in his mind, he said he would leave his work to a colleague for now and, after getting approval from the other party due to the emergency, he would come back in the morning. Hanging up the phone and heading to the living room where Olivia was waiting, I found her sitting with a stern expression, unlike before.
"Samantha, I want to talk to Taylor directly. I want to hear the truth from her mouth," she said. "You're right. I understand. It seems Ryan will also be coming back temporarily from his business trip tomorrow morning, so let's go to her together,"
I replied. And so it was decided that Olivia would join the discussion with Ryan tomorrow. Apologizing for the inconvenience at such a late hour, I was about to borrow Olivia's phone to call a taxi to take me to a hotel for the night. However, Olivia suggested I stay at her house, saying it would be a waste of money. I told her I couldn't possibly impose on her for a place to sleep after already causing her trouble, but with Olivia's insistence that we were going together anyway, I ended up staying for just one night. The next morning, Olivia drove us to the station to pick up Ryan, and the three of us went to our home to talk to Taylor. Since I had left my keys inside the house, Ryan used his key to unlock the front door, and we returned home for the first time in several hours. Upon entering, we noticed a pair of men's sneakers among Taylor's and our shoes. Thinking it couldn't be, we saw the living room door slightly ajar and burst in, the three of us. There, on the living room sofa, we saw Taylor snuggled up with an unknown man.
"What the?"
Unable to contain his anger at the man sleeping nonchalantly even in this situation, Ryan shook him awake and dragged him off the sofa. Pulled down and slammed face first onto the floor, the man finally woke up, confused about what was happening. He looked around and seemed to notice our presence. "Huh? Who are you?" he asked.
"I'm the husband of the woman you were sleeping with,"
Ryan replied. We had the two of them get dressed and demanded an explanation from them about this situation. Taylor remained silent, perhaps irritated by this sudden situation. Instead, her lover began to explain how they had ended up like this. They had met on a dating app a few months ago, and their affair began in a drunken moment when they were out drinking together. From there, they started dating, leading to their current relationship. He himself had no idea Taylor was married. She had apparently taken off her ring and told him she was single, with no boyfriend or husband. As her lover revealed the truth, Taylor, who had maintained her silence, gradually clouded over, and beads of sweat formed on her forehead.
"Why did you tattle on me? Everything was going well until now, but you've ruined it all, haven't you?"
Taylor shouted furiously. Olivia, her mother, slapped her cheek while shedding large tears. So it was all a lie that you were too busy with housework to even work part-time. I heard from Samantha yesterday. Even when Samantha was having a hard time, you were just out playing, and you used the money I gave you because you couldn't earn it yourself to play around with your lover. Hearing Olivia's words, Taylor's sharp gaze turned to me again. Even though it was her own responsibility, she glared at me with malicious eyes, as if to say it was clearly my fault. But Ryan stepped in between our gazes and glared back at Taylor. Taylor, I can't go on with you anymore. I've been working desperately from morning till night to make money for our family, and this is how you use that money? You've got to be kidding me. I want a divorce. Unable to contain his anger at her betrayal, he brought up divorce in a heavy, low voice. Shaken by the word divorce, Taylor clung to Ryan's feet and screamed desperately. Don't abandon me! But of course, not even we, let alone Ryan, were willing to forgive her. No matter how much she cried or apologized, her fate was sealed in Ryan's and our minds. She had to atone for what she had done. At this point, for some reason, Taylor started to argue back. But where's the proof that I was really having an affair? You're talking as if I've been cheating all along, but there's no such evidence anywhere, is there? Her excuses were so pathetic that I could only be amazed. Ryan, who had been regaining his composure, seemed even angrier at her excuses. I delivered the final blow to Taylor. I have proof. Recently, someone at the rehab facility I've been going to recommended that I secretly install indoor security cameras. Today's cameras are convenient because you can check the footage on your smartphone. Saying that, I opened the dedicated app on my phone, which I had left untouched, to check the security camera footage and showed her the recordings from last night until now. It showed Taylor on the phone with someone after she had kicked me out, and then her lover coming to the house, embracing passionately, and kissing repeatedly. Other footage also contained several statements and behaviors that confirmed Taylor's infidelity. She had complained that my injury made it difficult for her to find time to meet her lover. She had planned to kick me out so she could invite him over during Ryan's business trip. The evidence, including audio, was rock solid. You can't talk your way out of this one. You said there was no evidence of cheating, but your claim has ended up being meaningless. Ryan said. Yeah, so what if I cheated? What's wrong with that? You're never home because of work, and being cooped up in the house with Samantha all the time is suffocating. I haven't done anything wrong, she admitted, brazenly confirming her infidelity up until now. Apparently, she had spent all the money she had received from Ryan and Olivia on buying things for her lover and going out to eat with him. Not wanting to even breathe the same air as Taylor, who had fully admitted to cheating, we quickly kicked her and her lover out. We'll talk more about this later, Ryan stressed. She didn't respond to his words as she left, but later, she came with her lover who had been in the house, and discussions were held with a lawyer present. The footage from the security cameras I had installed was established as evidence to validate the divorce, and Ryan and Taylor's divorce was granted. Furthermore, compensation and settlement money were demanded from Taylor and her lover, who had been cheating in the divorce trial. But Taylor showed no signs of remorse, not just for this incident, but for the countless troubles she had caused in the past. Fed up with her antics, Ryan and Olivia decided to cut all ties with her completely. Don't you dare come near us ever again. Despite being abandoned by Ryan, who had loved her passionately, and Olivia, her own mother, Taylor seemed utterly unfazed. If anything, she appeared almost relieved as she sat through the discussions with the lawyers and us, a serene expression on her face. Now single, Taylor soon discovered that her lover had never harbored any romantic feelings for her. To him, she was nothing more than a convenient plaything. As soon as he had paid off his share of the settlement, he vanished from her life without a trace. Accustomed to a life of pampering and indulgence, Taylor found herself woefully unprepared for the harsh realities of fending for herself. The meager sum she had left was hardly enough to maintain a decent standard of living, forcing her to settle for a dilapidated apartment. On top of that, she was saddled with the burden of paying the court-ordered alimony from the divorce, which meant she had to work herself to the bone from dawn till dusk just to stay afloat. Ryan, on the other hand, found himself with a bit more financial wiggle room after the divorce. Freed from the shackles of his previous workaholic lifestyle, he now made a point of coming home early in the evenings to help out with the household chores. His dedication and support allowed me to focus more intently on my rehabilitation. My friendship with Olivia remained as strong as ever. Even though she had cut ties with her daughter, Taylor, she made it clear that her bond with me was a separate matter entirely. She chose to believe in me over her own flesh and blood, and for that, I will be forever grateful. With Ryan's unwavering commitment to keeping our home running smoothly and her constant companionship during my therapy sessions, I found myself regaining more mobility and independence than ever before. These days, my greatest joy comes from the simple pleasures of grabbing a coffee or indulging in a bit of retail therapy with my best friend, Olivia, after a long day of rehabilitation. Life is good, and I couldn't be happier. I don't need you, my husband said so casually. The daughter, laughing. We don't need a fake mom around, do we? Disappear already. I feel the blood draining from my face. It seems I was the only one who thought we were a precious family. After all I've done for them, using my part-time job money to pay for the mortgage and tuition. That's enough. It's time to reveal everything to these people who understand nothing. My name is Susan. My husband, William, and I are both on our second marriage, having been together for 15 years. We have a daughter, Nancy, who is William's child from his first marriage. I divorced my first husband because we couldn't have children. We went to the hospital, but they couldn't find a clear reason. Despite our love, our inability to have children led us to bicker. Eventually, even our parents got involved, and it ended badly without any happy memories. I was done with marriage, but fate intervened at a singles mixer I was dragged to by my parents. That's where I met my current husband. He was friendly, easy to talk to, and had a wonderful smile. William said, Actually, I've been divorced. So have I. And I'm raising a child on my own. That must be tough. She's lovely. But I guess a girl needs a mom, right? But it's hard to find a kind woman who'd raise a stepchild. What? Oops. Did you hear that? I thought it was destiny. I had found the perfect person for someone like me who couldn't have children. William's divorce was due to his ex-wife's infidelity. The stepchild was 3 years old at the time. Must have been at an adorable age. To cheat with such a small child at home, what a terrible wife. William lived in a newly built house. It was just built, and there was still a mortgage. I can't pay it off alone, so I was thinking of letting it go. That's too bad. I've gotten rid of everything that belonged to my ex-wife, and I wanted to live here with you, but... Oh. Oops. Did you hear that? Could this be considered a proposal? Please don't worry. If it's all right, I can help pay the mortgage. Really? Thank you. I'll definitely pay you back. What are you saying? There's no need to pay me back. I'm going to be living here too. What? Oops. Did you hear that? Things were going well with William, but I had to disclose something important beforehand. But William accepted it smoothly, without any hesitation.
You might be infertile? That's totally fine. One child is enough for us. Let's cherish her together.
I was relieved. No more pressure to marry again. We got married quickly. Since it was the second marriage for both of us, we simply greeted our relatives and didn't have a ceremony. But I was happy. A kind husband, a lovely daughter, a new home. Having obtained what I once gave up on, I vowed to live for my family. To do anything for their happiness. Time passed, and now I am 48 years old.
Good morning. Did you sleep well?
As I greet her, my stepdaughter, Nancy, stares at me without returning the morning greetings and says,
Hey! You went into my room, didn't you? I just opened the window to air it out. Stop making excuses.
Okay, sorry. Nancy has grown up so fast and is now in 12th grade. I don't know if it's because she's been spoiled too much or it's just her personality, but she's very strong-willed and extremely harsh towards me.
What time will you be back today?
It's none of your business.
That's not true. I need to know for dinner.
Don't care.
Well, let me know when you figure it out.
Don't order me around. She leaves for school without saying goodbye. I don't know what irritates her, but this is always her attitude. Maybe this prolonged rebellious phase is just a part of our step-parent relationship, making me feel down. I might be overthinking, but the invisible wall between us gets me down. I worry if I'm not being accepted as a mom. No. I've worked hard for Nancy's sake. I've taken care of her, stayed up nights when she was sick, and didn't hesitate to scold her when she was wrong. She must have felt my feelings closest to her. She'll understand when she's an adult. We're family for life, so there's no need to worry. What bothers me is William's silence. Given his position, he could mediate, but he acts as if it's none of his business. He's absorbed in his mobile phone again this morning. Please stop. But no matter how many times I say it, that mobile phone never leaves his side. He takes it to the bath and doesn't let go of it even when sleeping. He says he gets anxious without it. It's not like he's a teenager. It's a clear case of dependency. Peeking over his shoulder, William lets out a surprised yell.
Whoa! What's that for? Just wondering what you're so engrossed in.
Don't look at someone else's mobile phone.
Got something to hide?
It's privacy. It's embarrassing. He's looking at something embarrassing in the morning? But I decide not to pry. Common wisdom says there's nothing to be gained from spouses checking each other's mobile phones. Seeing William looking a bit angry, I cheerfully start a conversation.
Hey William, this is the last month. For what? For Nancy's tuition payments. Our girl is graduating soon. Time flies, doesn't it?
I meant it from the bottom of my heart.
These 3 years have flown by, haven't they?
Nancy's private high school is popular for its liberal atmosphere and stylish uniforms, but it's expensive. William was opposed when he saw the tuition, but Nancy said,
I really want to go there.
Wanting to fulfill Nancy's wish, I convinced a reluctant William and decided to take on multiple part-time jobs. The uniform, tuition fees, an overseas school trip, so-called voluntary donations, daily lunch money, allowance. And on top of that, this house's mortgage. Honestly, it was tough. Most of my part-time job earnings went to payments. But the joy of sending Nancy off every morning was irreplaceable. It's going to be lonely. William truly meant it.
Are you going to miss it? Nancy isn't leaving home, so life won't change much, right?
Maybe I'll just miss seeing Nancy in her uniform.
That might be true.
Come to think of it, My mom said she's waiting with lots of presents, so she told me to come visit after the graduation ceremony. It's been a while since my mom last saw Nancy, and she's really looking forward to it.
Hey William, I need to talk to you. After Nancy graduates.
Can't right now. I'm in the middle of something. William is engrossed in his mobile phone again. Okay, got it. There's only a week left until the graduation ceremony. There will be another chance to talk. A few days later. As I passed by Nancy's room, I heard voices inside. She seemed to be on the phone. Seriously, it's the worst. She appeared to be bad-mouthing someone. Not that I was particularly interested, but I stopped and listened.
Pretending to be a mom when she doesn't understand anything, it's so annoying.
My heart skipped a beat in shock. Was she talking about me? If so, who was she talking to?
My real mom is you. I don't care about that old lady. Even Dad treats her like a maid, not bothering to have his own kids with her.
No. When we got married, we decided together to cherish just Nancy. Unable to hold back, I opened the door to Nancy's room. Startled, Nancy seemed to have quickly ended the call.
Hey, I've told you not to just come into my room, haven't I?
Who are you talking to? Seeing my serious expression, Nancy laughed.
Eavesdropping?
That's the worst. I couldn't help but hear. Fine, I'll tell you.
The person on the phone is my next mom.
My vision darkens. Who is it? Since when?
You're joking, right?
My face goes pale, and I tremble.
Are you saying he's cheating? That's not like him. Impossible.
Nancy says disdainfully. Looks like you don't know, so I'll tell you.
The reason for Dad's divorce from his first marriage was because of him. That can't be.
Of course, he cheated.
He's even paying alimony from the divorce trial.
Nancy smoothly talks about things I had no idea about.
Well, it's better for me to stay with Dad because I won't have to worry about money. There must be some mistake.
Are we done here?
I was in the middle of a call. Can you leave?
Fake mom. I was driven out of the room. Why is Nancy talking on the phone with this so-called next mom so comfortably? What am I then? Feeling dizzy, I make my way to William in the living room. Hey, William. I heard from Nancy. Are you cheating, William?
Hey, what's this all of a sudden?
Am I the only one being left out? William looks at me puzzled.
Did Nancy play a prank on you?
I don't know what's true and what's a lie. I just had to ask. So, the reason for the divorce 15 years ago was due to your affair? What's with the sudden questioning? It wasn't your wife who cheated, but you, William? That's ancient history, isn't it? William answers without any remorse, with a distasteful smirk. So it's true. What are you going to do about it? I want to know the truth.
I regret what I did and have reflected on it.
What do you mean? William begins to explain with a defiant attitude. His affair caused his ex-wife to become mentally fragile, and he ended up with custody. He had never taken care of a child before, so he went to a singles mixer, conveniently looking for someone to replace Mom. To my shock, William says, "It's all in the past now. We're happy now, aren't we?" He smiles with the same expression as when we first met. That's terrible. I've been acting as this family's mom for 15 years, juggling part-time jobs on top of household chores to make payments. And to be told I'm real or fake. Are we done here?
Excuse me?
You chose to do all that, didn't you? Stop complaining.
Like Nancy said, you're just a fake after all.
It's all just pretend play. His dismissive response left me stunned. Pretend play? Did he really just say that?
How could you say that?
But it's true. I need to cool off. Yeah, you do that. I just lay down on the sofa. I wanted to sleep in the bedroom to rest properly, but I couldn't move. The headache is unbearable. As if my head is splitting open. William offers no comfort, not even extending a hand in concern. We need to have a serious talk, both of us. Cheating, the next mom, my head is about to explode with all this. Morning comes without my thoughts settling. I drift in and out of sleep, haunted by restless dreams, barely resting at all. It felt like a noisy, frantic nightmare. Ah, that was refreshing, feels good.
Right, Dad?
William and Nancy appeared with towels wrapped around their heads. He looked like he was cleaning or boxing things so he could move out because he was sweating profusely. Puzzled, I glance towards the entrance and see a junk collection truck driving away. My dresser and chest of drawers are on the back.
Hey! That's my... Why?
I rush to ask them what they've done.
What the hell did you do?
There was a cancellation, so they could come right away. That's not what I'm asking. We threw them out.
Threw them out? My things?
If I'm going to live with a new wife, I need to get rid of the previous wife stuff, right?
Huh.
Don't need them anymore. William says this nonchalantly. I'm trembling. Nancy laughs. We don't need a fake mom around, do we? Disappear already. I feel the blood draining from my face. Fake. Believing that being a mom isn't just about giving birth, but that I, who raised her, am truly her mom. All this time I held on to that belief. Yet, looking around the house, from the bedroom to the laundry room and closet, all of my things have been thrown away. Only the suit I was to wear for Nancy's graduation ceremony tomorrow was spared, left in the living room. I held the suit carefully and said, I understand. I'll disappear. You're not planning on coming to the graduation ceremony tomorrow, are you? It's enough if Dad is there as the guardian.
I know that. Oh good, I'd hate for my mom to be a fake.
Nancy says this with a laugh. Where did I go wrong in raising her? The sadness nearly brings tears to my eyes. I can't forgive being betrayed from the start. All my time and money gone. Nancy calls me a fake mom. Perhaps it was a self-centered effort on my part. Maybe this was destined to happen, given the kind of person Nancy is. Well, tomorrow, they'll be the ones with nothing to gain. The next day. I regret not being able to see Nancy in her moment of glory. Despite the beautifully clear weather contrasting my mood. My own mom left the house dressed up. Celebrating a day that has finally come, yet I can't share in the celebration with them. Soon, my mobile phone starts buzzing like crazy. It's Nancy. Why would she call in the middle of her graduation ceremony? I switch it to silent mode. I slip into the suit that narrowly escaped yesterday's purge. It's time to reveal everything. Upon arriving at the graduation ceremony, I find one student left alone in the gym. It was Nancy.
You finally showed up.
Nancy was trembling. Over 300 missed calls told the story of her anger.
It's because of you, isn't it?
What are you talking about?
I was told not to show up at the graduation ceremony. You must have been behind this, right?
Why would I do that?
That's what I'm asking you.
Then, a young woman appeared. Nancy says to the woman,
Betty, do something about her.
It seemed to be Nancy's homeroom teacher was this Betty. Betty, with a displeased look, said,
Regardless of being the former mom, sabotaging a graduation is unforgivable.
She looked at me provocatively. So it's you.
Nice to meet you. I'm the new mom.
I never expected it to be Nancy's homeroom teacher. It made sense they got along well.
You seem to be mistaken, but I have no power to sabotage a graduation.
I'm just a guardian now.
Huh? What?
Then, the school director, dressed up, appeared.
Oh, everyone's here together. School director. Why am I the only one who can't graduate?
Nancy immediately snapped at her. The school director apologized with a troubled smile.
I'm sorry, there was something I absolutely had to confirm with you, Nancy, so I instructed it. Me? With the school director? You are special, Nancy. Is that so? Yes, I wanted to keep you here. Once we give you your diploma, you'll leave, right? I'd be troubled if we never meet again. Because I'm excellent?
Nancy seems pleased by the misunderstanding. Now looks unsettled in front of the school director, unable to maintain her arrogant demeanor. Any attempt to mend her image now is too late. The school director said to Betty,
Betty, you've had several parent-teacher conferences with Nancy's father, haven't you? What? You've submitted numerous request forms for conferences.
What? The two of them are visibly tense, exchanging glances.
That was because Betty and her dad said they wanted to talk to me. No, it was necessary for career guidance.
The school director, with a tone of disbelief. Her career path was decided over 6 months ago. What guidance were you providing?
Well,
I sighed. To think Nancy was aiding and abetting William's affair.
I just did what Betty asked. I don't know anything. Wait. You're the one who suggested using the career guidance office because it was safe and nobody would find out, right? I'm happy to have a younger mom.
She was just saying that the other day, and now this parent-child squabble. Then, William approached. He seemed to have been hiding in a corner of the parents' area.
Now, let's calm down. Leave this to me, I'll handle it.
It's hard to imagine what William can do, considering how eager he seems to step in. School director.
My remarriage to Betty has nothing to do with Nancy's graduation.
We've paid our tuition in full. Please give Nancy her diploma already. The school director listened silently to William's plea.
School director? Are you listening?
William, don't you recognize me?
I suppose it's understandable since you haven't seen me since Nancy was little.
What? It's a shame, really. I had a graduation gift prepared and was looking forward to it.
Besides, it wasn't William who managed the household finances to pay for the tuition, was it? Wait, mother-in-law.
Yes. The school director is my mom.
You're kidding. You kept this a secret?
I wanted to ensure all students were treated equally, so I plan to explain everything after graduation. Everyone is visibly shocked. Nancy seems unable to believe that the school director, who she's been seeing all this time, was her grandmother.
Grandma? Really? Yes. Then why? Why would you interfere with your granddaughter's graduation? Oh, you haven't come to me since you were little, and now you want to be my granddaughter when it suits you? But we're not related by blood. Indeed. But then, who desperately took care of raising Nancy? That was her own doing, wasn't it? I didn't ask for it.
Nancy turns her anger towards me.
Besides, I said it's enough if Dad is the guardian. Why are you even here?
Seems like she's forgotten about the insistent calls that summoned me here. That's rather convenient forgetfulness.
I'm not a guardian. What?
I'm succeeding my mom and will become the school director from the next academic year. We agreed to announce it after your successful graduation.
What? What?
Nancy, William, and Betty all wear faces of astonishment.
Understand? I have a responsibility in this matter.
Hey! I wasn't informed about this. I tried to talk to you, but you didn't listen, William. Oh. Normally, I wouldn't interfere with a guardian's affair, but when school staff are involved, staying silent would be wrong, wouldn't it? I turned to a pale-faced Betty. For engaging in behaviors unbefitting a teacher, such as making marriage promises with a married guardian, obsessively sending messages and calling, engaging in inappropriate physical relationships, and giving special treatment to a student, you are dismissed from your position effective today.
You knew all about it?
Yes.
That can't be.
Make sure to keep up with the mortgage payments that I've been making. No. I can't do that.
And expect a claim for compensation from the divorce proceedings. If I had known you were the future school director's wife, I wouldn't have promised to marry.
It's too late for such excuses. My discarded belongings won't come back, nor will it erase the evidence of the affair.
You'll be fine. You'll find a new job soon. Let's get through this together,
William said as he hugged the pale-faced homeroom teacher's shoulders. She brushed it off with her hand in annoyance.
Don't touch me! What are you going to do about this?
After saying that, I held my head.
I shouldn't have taken the affair lightly. My life is ruined because of you and your daughter.
I wonder what the parties are saying. I am convinced that this teacher is unnecessary as the next school director. She's a horrible woman who messes with a student's dad, so we need to notify the nearby schools.
So, what about my graduation?
Nancy said, after a moment of thought.
Nancy, you've played a part in this, but the main culprits have been dealt with. You'll graduate conditionally. What? What does that mean? This is a school, after all. Let's assign some homework. Write a reflection paper, 20 pages each. What? Are you serious?
Nancy, who dislikes language arts class, makes a face as if she's hit rock bottom. Given Nancy's personality, reflection and apology won't come easily.
Make sure you do your best not to repeat the year. If that happens, don't worry, I'll be there to guide you as the school director. What? Don't get too full of yourself. Enough! First, we need to teach you how to speak properly. What? Your response?
Yes. William, who had been silently observing the situation, suddenly changed his demeanor.
I'm sorry for not considering Susan's feelings. But keeping the next school director a secret wasn't right. If I knew how impressive that was, I would have been nicer.
I responded with a look of disdain.
Make sure you pay the compensation from the divorce proceedings soon.
What? Though it was brief, I enjoyed our little pretend play. What? Now, parents, please leave. My voice echoed in the silent gymnasium. I wish the new family of three the best in their continued pretend play. 3 days later, I received their reflection papers. First was William's. It seemed like he picked up some generic text from the internet, full of copy and paste, shallow and repetitive apologies. Even an unaware AI could write better. No real reflection was evident. Should I accept it just because he submitted it for Nancy's sake? No, I want my time back for having read it. Rejected. Then, Nancy's. It was full of how pitiable she was and her grievances against me. With no sign of reflection. She complained about the difficulties with laundry and meals, resentful of the life she lost. I had cared for the family from dawn till dusk, enabling their comfortable lives. Indeed, they're reaping what they sowed. There was no reflection paper submitted by Betty. It seems she woke up to reality, decided against marrying into such a situation, and fled. With their new mom gone and both of them lacking basic household skills, I wonder how they'll manage to live. But that's not my concern. It's a good opportunity for them to learn self-sufficiency. However, if they continue to see me as the villain, they'll never make progress. I'm no longer a mom, and even if Nancy doesn't think so, she is a child I raised with love for 15 years. I couldn't truly deny her graduation, but before she steps into society, it's time to straighten out her twisted character. After school every day, she'll come to the school director's office for supplementary lessons on general knowledge. She'll also help with clerical work. Her reflection paper, in its current state, can't be accepted, so she'll take her time to correct it. Maybe after a year of hard work, she'll turn out to be a decent person. That depends on Nancy. I'm ready to support her for years if necessary. I never had my own children, but I've had the role of overseeing and graduating many students. This responsibility will continue for years to come. There are all kinds of students and guardians, each with their own family situations. Not all students come from privileged backgrounds. I'm prepared to grow alongside them, doing my best. You're in your mid-30s and you're still single? That's pretty sad. My husband is both handsome and a genius. Madison declares this with a sneer in the middle of the park, looking down on me with a smirk that seems to scream she's on the winning side. The crowd around us starts to murmur. Everyone looks at me with pity in their eyes. That must have been exactly what Madison wanted when she raised her voice. I've been subjected to Madison's cruelty before. I've managed to ignore it until now, but I can't take it anymore. I want to make her experience hell. The same, no, even worse hell than what I've been through. My name is Stella, a 36-year-old working mother. I'm a nurse, and despite the challenges, I find fulfillment in a job that allows me to help others. Welcome home, Stella. I'm back. You're home early today. The meeting I had planned got rescheduled to tomorrow, so I ended up having some free time. Waiting for you at home like this is quite nice. My husband, Stephen, is a calm and kind-hearted man. Like me, he's busy with work, but he always makes time for the family, and even after 13 years of marriage, I can feel his deep love for me. Mom, you're home. That's my son, Mark. He just started middle school this year and is 12 years old. He's still my adorable son, though he's starting to act a bit more grown up. I'm back. Oh, what's that wonderful smell? Today's my turn to cook dinner. It'll be ready soon. Mark has grown up to be a kind child, just like his dad. I could have never imagined my life to be like this 13 years ago. I'm always grateful to Stephen and Mark. One day, I found myself alone in a jewelry shop in Chinatown. I was there to get our wedding rings cleaned since they'd started to tarnish. I decided to go for the full restoration service, and they told me it would take about 2 to 3 weeks for the rings to be ready. After leaving my ring with them, I headed to the apparel shop next door. Stephen, knowing I don't often splurge on myself, had given me some money and said, "Buy yourself some clothes you like." While I was happily choosing clothes, someone called out to me. "Hey, aren't you Stella?" "Huh?" I turned around to see a short woman standing there. Her large, cat-like eyes and plump lips. Anyone would have called her cute at first glance, and her exaggerated head tilt was designed to charm. But that's all in the past now. As she's entered her late 30s, those gestures just seemed embarrassing. "It's been a while. Remember me?" As if you could forget, right? After all that happened. But, seriously, Stella, still single? I noticed you're not wearing a ring.
The woman basking in her own chatter is Madison. My friend, or rather, my former friend. Madison and I met in high school. I was a member of the volunteer club. It was a club that visited preschools to read picture books, and we learned sign language to communicate with the hearing impaired. I've always found joy and purpose in making people smile and doing something beneficial for others. And Madison was also a member of this club.
Why did you join the volunteer club, Madison? Just because? It seemed fun. Like sign language in Braille.
Madison, with her cute looks and a charm akin to a small animal, was popular among the boys.
Wow, Stella, you've already learned that much sign language. You're really talented. Really? Thank you.
Madison often complimented me, which meant a lot since I didn't have much confidence in myself. She also gave me advice on love.
Hey, I'm going to start dating Brian. It's all thanks to you, Madison. Really? Congratulations.
Perhaps because of her popularity and continuous advice, I got a boyfriend for the first time in my life. His name was Brian. A senior in the top high school in the county, aiming for medical school, a true elite. Brian and I met at a cram school. We happened to be going the same way home, and after talking a few times, there was a mutual attraction, though he hadn't made a move. After consulting with Madison, she said, "You should be the one to go for it." So, I asked him out and we finally became a couple.
Madison, thank you so much.
No problem, we're best friends, right? We'll always be together. Our friendship came to an end when Madison stole my fiancé. After graduating high school, I went to nursing school and worked as a nurse at a hospital. Brian, having passed his medical licensing exams, proposed to me, and we got engaged. I was on top of the world. Then, I received a phone call. It was from Madison. After high school, Madison went to a distant university, got a job, and didn't return to our hometown. We only met once or twice a year. Madison mentioned she would be coming back home soon, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to introduce her to Brian, so the three of us planned to meet. On the day the three of us met, Madison's face lit up the moment she saw Brian.
Brian, you're so handsome. And such great taste in clothes, and plus you're a doctor too? Totally my dream guy.
Yes, but I still have a lot to learn. Smart and high-earning. Guess you're not short on cash, Stella. Share some with me, will you?
What do you mean share?
I found myself grateful for Madison's presence in my life, the only one with whom I could exchange such jokes. A month had passed by. Late at night, I got a call from Madison. Sorry, Stella.
For what?
Madison chuckled as if she was holding back a big secret. I only meant to take a little bit from you.
But he was surprisingly easy to win over.
So, I ended up taking everything, not just a little. It seems that during our meeting, Madison had secretly exchanged contact details with Brian. They met behind my back several times and eventually became romantically involved. Why? Why would you do that? We were. It's all a lie, obviously.
What?
You know, it was all calculated. I joined the volunteer club because I thought it would be full of nice, naive people, and yes, I hit the jackpot. There were so many people I could use. People who are too kind, can't judge others well, and share everything once they trust someone. Like you, Stella. Thanks to that, I knew everything about Brian, his likes, dislikes, personality, and even his taste in women. From there, it was an easy win for me.
I'm way cuter than you, after all. You're lying, right? Madison? I never expected you to bring along such an impressive guy. Thanks, Stella. The call ended. Later, Brian officially called off our engagement, and the next year, he married Madison. Madison had a baby. That much was detailed in a letter she sent, making sure I knew. I moved far away, rented a house, and changed jobs to avoid any interaction with them. I hadn't met either of them since then. Brian's made quite the name for himself. He's working at a big hospital now, and we've moved. All thanks to you, Stella. Realizing that was her way of saying thanks for giving me Brian, I bit my lip. I don't dwell on the past. I put the clothes back and left the store. After returning home, I acted as if nothing had happened in front of my family and went to my bedroom, claiming I was tired. I never thought I'd run into Madison again. I was considering taking a nap until dinner to forget everything when my phone's notification sound went off. A friend request? It was from a social media account I had registered long ago and hadn't been using. Opening the app, I was surprised. A friend request from Madison. Why? Feeling there must be some intention behind it, I checked her profile and found a post from 10 minutes ago. Met Stella today. Really nostalgic. She's as plain as ever. But still my dear friend. Here's a photo of Stella picking out clothes. The photo showed me choosing clothes alone. She must have taken it before approaching me. The post had many comments. Wow, Stella really has no taste.
Hasn't changed a bit since high school. So funny.
Madison's so kind to help her choose. Unable to bear it any longer, I closed my phone. She must have sent the friend request just to show me this. Mocking me, exposing me in a public space. This was too cruel. How much more did she need to belittle me to be satisfied? A firm resolve for revenge began to stir within me. Today, I found myself back in Chinatown. A famous large department store had apparently opened nearby, and today, there was an opening sale with a 10% discount at all stores. Thanks to the sale, the department store was bustling with activity. After finishing my shopping, I was waiting on a bench in the plaza. That's when I heard a familiar voice. Hey, is that you, Stella? What's this? Did the poor thing get lured in by the sale? Madison! It was the opening day of the famous large department store. I had been wary, hoping not to run into Madison, yet here she was. I was just here waiting for my family. Never thought I'd run into you, Stella. That's right. I'm waiting for someone too. Oh, your family? But you're single, aren't you? Got dumped by someone, right? Hey, Brian. Brian was next to Madison, turning his face away from me, looking uncomfortable. Mom, is this the lady Dad dumped? She looks so plain and uncool. A girl who looked like she was in middle school laughed at me. Madison put her hand on the girl's shoulder, beaming proudly. This is Mia, my pride and joy. She's smart like Brian and goes to a prestigious middle school. She's super cute, right? She's an influencer with 10,000 followers on social media. We're like the successful mother-daughter duo. They both let out a vulgar laugh just as my son approached. Mom? Mark runs over to me. Seeing Madison's puzzled look, I said to her, "Let me introduce you. This is my son, Mark." Madison was taken aback. Huh? You have a kid? Well, he's got a plain face just like you. Then Mia tugged at Madison's arm. Wait, Mom, this is Mark. The super popular YouTuber with 500K subscribers. He's really smart and makes puzzle and quiz videos with his friends. And he's the current heartthrob. He looks even more handsome in person. Wait, what? I'm Mia, an influencer. You know me, right? Can we exchange contacts?
Mia's eyes glistened as she gazed up at Mark, staring intently. Just like Madison used to. Mia? Never heard of you. Plus, I heard from a distance how you were mocking my mom. I don't like people who insult others' families. But...
Hey, why didn't you tell me, Mom? You got me dumped. It's your fault.
Mia,
I'm a big fan of his. I looked forward to his videos every day, solved puzzles, and always sent comments, hoping to meet him someday. Why is this happening to me? I hate you, Mom.
Mia, wait.
Don't touch me.
Mia shook off Madison's hand and ran away crying. Madison, visibly shaken, turned to me with a furious look.
So what if your son is whatever he says he is? Brian works at the top university hospital in this area. I taught him everything so he could advance his career. Even how to cover up little medical errors. I mean mistakes, you know. Hey, Madison, don't talk about that. You must be some miserable single mother, right? Not wearing a ring. Being single at 36, what a late bloomer. My husband is handsome and a genius,
Madison said with a sarcastic smile. Then Mark exclaimed,
Oh, Dad.
Hey, Mark. Stella. Stephen, having finished shopping, approached us. I smiled sweetly at Madison.
Let me introduce my husband as well. This is Stephen, a doctor at a nearby hospital. You know him, don't you, Madison?
Seeing Stephen, Madison looked like she was about to lose her mind.
Stephen? The genius doctor who became the deputy director of the university hospital at 38?
I nodded in response. Stephen and I met 13 years ago. After Madison stole Brian from me, I moved away to avoid them and started a new job at a different hospital. That's where I met Stephen. Back then, Stephen was a rookie doctor. He appreciated my diligent work ethic and the way I interacted with patients, deeply empathizing with my desire to help others, a sentiment I've held since my time in the volunteer club. We were naturally drawn to each other and eventually got married. And that's how Mark came into our lives.
Just how did you manage to marry someone so impressive, Stella? Did you use some dirty trick? Stop it, Madison.
What's it with you, Brian? Don't interfere.
I said stop it.
Brian slapped Madison with great force. She fell, holding her reddened cheek, trembling.
What is wrong with you?
Brian glared at Madison.
This man is my boss. Haven't I told you before? I work at the same university hospital as Dr. Stephen. You weren't listening because you were too obsessed with social media.
Brian deeply apologized to Stephen and me. I'm terribly sorry for my wife's insult. Madison, I'm truly sorry. Stephen looked down at Brian and growled. You were talking about medical errors earlier, weren't you?
That was just my wife's nonsense.
I recall there was a medical error at the hospital you used to work at. A nurse was accused, and she has always claimed her innocence. Yes, I think I'll have the hospital look into it again. My husband and my son both have good ears. I chuckled behind Stephen.
But...
Brian collapsed, as if his soul had been drained. Madison was frozen, her eyes wide. I slowly began to speak.
Madison, you thought I was single because I wasn't wearing a ring, but actually, it's currently being serviced. I should have told you. I'm sorry.
Stella, you.
Madison was shaking, her face flushed with anger. Then Stephen tapped my shoulder.
Let's go home, Stella.
We've finished shopping, and besides, today is our anniversary.
That's right. Didn't you book a restaurant? I'm starving, let's hurry. Yes, let's.
We left the plaza together, leaving Madison behind. Her voice of frustration echoed behind us.
What the? No. I won't accept this.
I left the department store elegantly, hand in hand with my husband and son, with her voice as our background music. The dinner at the restaurant was wonderful. Celebrating our anniversary with my family, I couldn't help but feel incredibly fortunate. Yet, a bit of unease lingered. I checked my social media. Yes, it's about Madison. She might well concoct a story from today's events to mock me. I checked Madison's page.
Today was the best day. Was shopping at the department store and met that genius middle schooler, Mark. My daughter even got his autograph. I'm so lucky. Snapped a photo of Mark.
There was a photo of Mark from behind. Likely, she took it as we were leaving the department store. I was dumbfounded by Madison's persistence to use whatever she could. I commented on Madison's post.
Delete that photo right now. And stop lying about getting an autograph.
Then, a new post appeared.
Some people are getting jealous. It's terrible to accuse me of lying when I'm not.
The comments were filled with support for Madison. It was the usual scenario. There was no other choice. I decided to take a final measure. Later, I received a notification on social media. It was a friend request notification. The name was Madison too. An apology, perhaps? Though I had no expectations, I accepted Madison's friend request. Immediately, a message arrived.
Stella, what have you done? My account got deleted because of you. What are you going to do about it?
What am I going to do? I've told you repeatedly to delete it, and you wouldn't listen. I simply told Mark the truth. I informed Mark about Madison's post. We couldn't let the unauthorized photo and lies go unchecked, especially since it was harmful to Mark. Mark took it seriously and posted a video warning. Somebody's been posting my photos on social media, which were taken without permission. I didn't sign anything. Despite requests from me and through my parents for deletion, all were ignored. Taking photos without consent is a crime. Please stop doing this. Mark's fans quickly identified Madison's post, and after many reported it, her account was suspended. The friend request now was from Madison's new account. The 2 in the name likely meant it was her second account. She must have registered again with a new email, but her fixation towards social media was astonishing.
How much effort do you think I've put into my posts? Thinking of the text, selecting the photos. Then why not put that effort into your new account? Post the truth and use proper photos, and you won't have your account suspended again. Shut up. Don't tell me what to do. And don't message me again.
She was the one who reached out to me in the first place. I sighed and put down my phone. Later on, Madison began posting on her new account. Madison posted about her glowing daily life, fun girls' nights out, and parties. The friends appearing in photos with Madison were always the same group, including some from the volunteer club. Then, I received another friend request. I was curious, but recognized the name upon seeing it. It was Olivia from the volunteer club, a frequent presence in Madison's posts. I hadn't talked to her much, but I remembered her face and name. Long time no see, Stella. It's been a while. How have you been? Yes, well, actually, I wanted to talk to you about something concerning Madison. Do you have the time? Of course. What's up?
Madison always posts these flashy pictures on social media, surrounded by lots of friends. But it's all a lie. Everyone's being blackmailed into participating. Madison would dine out, claiming she's introducing them to good places, and then make everyone pay for her share.
I was speechless, finally understanding the reason why members of the volunteer club appeared in Madison's photos. Is that true?
Yes. Remember when Madison was criticized for taking unauthorized photos? Right after that, she contacted me. I've been complying, but I'm lost about what to do next. That's why I reached out to you, Stella. I saw you commented on that controversial post, so I thought you might support me.
I thought for a moment. You mentioned being blackmailed. What kind of leverage does she have?
She claimed to have seen me verbally abusing other members back when we were in the volunteer club, even threatening to expose this to my family. But I have no recollection of such actions. She insists she has evidence, and it seems others are in a similar situation.
I felt something was off about Madison's claims. I suggested to Olivia. Sounds like Madison's lying, as usual. She targets kind or vulnerable people. Why not subtly ask around? A week later, one by one, the friends started disappearing from Madison's posts. According to Olivia, when asked for details or to show proof regarding everyone's weaknesses, Madison couldn't provide any and brushed off the request. Seeing her reaction, friends, or rather, those who had been threatened by Madison, became convinced that the so-called weaknesses Madison mentioned didn't exist. The glamorous daily life previously depicted in Madison's posts disappeared, replaced by solitary visits to cafes and boasts about her latest brand purchases. The likes and comments on her posts dramatically decreased. It was likely all a setup from the start. While checking my phone after work, I received a message. I'll never forgive you. I wondered if Madison found out I had given advice. Or was it just her assumption? Either way, I didn't want to be involved anymore, so I didn't reply. A few days later, as I was unlocking my door after returning from work, someone grabbed my shoulder from behind. Turning around, I saw it was Madison. Madison? Why are you here? I hired a detective. I know your husband is off today and has been out with your son since this morning. Madison pushed her way into my house and began to yell as she entered. Brian is being interrogated by the police. And because of Mark's photo, even Mia has been avoiding me, and all my friends are gone. I'll end up all alone. You have to take responsibility. Responsibility? This is all your fault, isn't it? Brian going to the police is because you instructed him to cover up his mistakes, right? And Mia avoiding you is because of the wrong you did. The same with social media. Threatening people to pretend to be your friends. You're the cause of all this. I responded calmly. Perhaps the incident at the department store had cleared my heart, healing past wounds. I won't run away. I won't lose anymore. Wait a minute. When you got a boyfriend in high school, it was all thanks to me. Without my advice, you would have been ignored for life. Now, return the favor. Give back everything you took from me. You're the one who took everything, Madison. You betrayed me. There's no favor to return. If there's any grudge, it's already been paid back. You should experience the hell I was pushed into. As I refused, Madison began to cry, crouching down. "You're so cruel. Please, we're best friends, right? Tell your husband that Brian is innocent. Make Mark tell Mia he doesn't hate him. Please, I beg you." Black tears streamed down Madison's cheeks, likely the result of her heavy eyeshadow and mascara dissolving in her tears. Madison's face was a mess. She continued to cry, covering her face with her hands as if she were playing the victim. During this, I quietly went to the bathroom and made a phone call to a certain place. After a while, the doorbell rang, and the door was opened from the outside.
What? What's this?
Madison shivered. "We received a report about this house." Yes, she forced her way in here. It was the police officer I had called. The officer knelt down to Madison's level.
"You're suspected of trespassing. We've also received several complaints about noise from the neighbors, so you'll need to come with us to the station."
The officers handcuffed Madison and led her to the police car. Of course, she resisted.
"No, I'm innocent. Somebody, anybody."
Madison was pushed into the police car and taken to the station. Stephen and Mark were surprised by the event, but were more amazed that I had handled Madison calmly. They were relieved I was safe and hugged me, saying, "We're so glad." That night, Stephen and I were in the bedroom.
"Stella, I have some good news."
"Good news?"
"Madison's husband, well, my subordinate, seems to be under investigation for medical malpractice. Rumor has it he's almost certainly guilty."
"Is that so?" Madison had been malicious since high school, probably desperate to elevate Brian for her own gain and status. Eventually, Brian was arrested by the police. The scandal of a doctor blaming a nurse for his mistake was sensationalized in the media, exposing their wrongdoing. Madison was also arrested for instructing Brian to cover up the mistake. Both ended up in prison, together. The victim of the medical malpractice is preparing to sue, and it seems both Brian and Madison's lives are effectively over. That goes the same for their daughter Mia.
"Stella, isn't this dress nice?"
"I like it. It looks like it would suit Mom."
"Really? Let me see."
We were at an apparel shop, the three of us. The last time I came here alone, Madison interrupted me, and I ended up going home without buying anything. So, we decided to come back together. I tried on the dress that Stephen and Mark recommended.
Isn't it a bit plain?"
"Not at all.
"It suits you."
Exactly, being plain doesn't mean it's bad.
"If it suits you, then it's all good."
I was happy to hear their words.
"Yes, you both are right."
I want to continue spending peaceful days with my family of 3.
A housekeeper who doesn't even cook is grounds for divorce, right?
Benjamin, my husband, punched me in the stomach. I don't think he put much force into it. But that's where my precious baby is.
"Hey! Stop it!"
I was so surprised by Benjamin's unexpected behavior that I overreacted. Seeing this, Benjamin let out a cheerful laugh.
"If you don't like it, just make lunch already. See, even the kid is saying, 'Poor daddy, starving because of mommy.' Okay, I get it. Just stop. Just don't hit my stomach."
I screamed almost like a shriek, and finally, Benjamin stopped his hand.
I'm tired. Just do as you're told from the start. Make it quickly, right now."
Satisfied with his own words, Benjamin looked up with content. And then, he froze as he looked at the computer screen in front of him. What? Somehow, I got off the chair, kept Benjamin at bay with scissors nearby, and said, This time, I won't let you make excuses. Well, not that you'll need to.
You. This has to be a lie. I won't let him get away with excuses this time. I'll expose his true nature for sure. My name is Evelyn. I'm 29. I work at an electronics manufacturer, but I'm currently on maternity leave, so I'm almost like a housewife. I say almost because there's a reason. I do some chores and participate in irregular remote meetings. That's the only thing I insist on. The reason is, I handed over the project I was involved in to my junior when I got pregnant. I wanted to know the progress, so I insisted on participating. But I hardly ever speak up, it's more like I'm just observing. Still, I was happy to participate and know how the project is progressing. But that's just working for free. It's a waste of time. You should quit. The one grumbling with dissatisfaction is my husband, Benjamin. He's 36, 7 years my senior. Originally, he was my boss at work. Benjamin, competent at his job, was always relied upon by those around him. Furthermore, I was struck by his kindness and guidance, and before I knew it, I was drawn to him. It was considered lucky to have married someone like Benjamin, and many envied us, but after we got married, he changed. Don't say things like that. My job is just doing odd jobs and attending meetings, you know? Sometimes, I'm just observing. That's a waste of time. If you have time like that, why don't you clean the room? I've noticed dust accumulating under the furniture lately. Benjamin pointed at the gap between the TV stand and the floor. That spot can't be cleaned without crouching down. Now in my last month of pregnancy, it's utterly impossible to crouch with this belly, making it hard to breathe just from walking. So, indeed, I've neglected cleaning in some areas. I do what I can, but I'm sorry. Normally, a wife's parents would come over to help with the housework at a time like this. But you don't have that, do you? Benjamin said this with a sigh. My heart ached. My parents died in an accident 10 years ago. It's been 10 years, but it still feels like just yesterday. Yet, Benjamin carelessly belittles me for not having parents like now. And I always ended up apologizing. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Then, Benjamin would always smile with satisfaction. You're lucky to have married such a generous man like me. I never thought I'd marry an ordinary woman with no special qualities like you, Evelyn. This is how Benjamin satisfies his ego. It's a daily repetition of sarcasm and boasting. He wasn't like this before we got married. Maybe it's common for both men and women to change after marriage. Sadly, Benjamin has a very good public image, so when I complain to others, they don't believe me. I get irrelevant responses like, "You're just being spoiled," or "It's nice to have someone so reliable." I could have endured it if it were just as everyone says. I could just ignore it. But lately, I've been at my wit's end with Benjamin returning from work. When the doorbell rings from evening to night, that's the signal of his return. Even if I was in the middle of housework, I would stop everything and rush to the entrance. And while watching the door open, I'd hope, "Please, let Benjamin be in a good mood today." When he's in a good mood, it's just reports of the company's doing well or I landed a contract. The problem is when he's in a bad mood.
Arg, so annoying. Acting all high and mighty just because they're a client. Those outdated fools.
As soon as he enters the entrance, Benjamin is stomping around, angry. We welcome back. He throws his bag at me and heads to the shower, cursing me under his breath. This whole routine terrified me. When this continued day after day, I even considered divorce. I first talked to a coworker, but they didn't believe me. Benjamin? That's hard to believe.
You're exaggerating. Look, you're pregnant and probably just tired, right? Maybe you need a change of scenery? It was as if they were saying I was the one being unreasonable. Sadly, I understand where my coworker is coming from. The Benjamin we worked with was perfect in everyone's eyes. Always smiling, gentle in his words and actions, and calm. It's hard to believe that he could change like this. I wouldn't have believed it myself in the past. Maybe it's just temporary. Perhaps he's just irritable because he's busy and tired. I decided to think positively. It's not like he's physically harmed me. Though my body tenses up when he throws things or yells, he's never hurt me. I'm sure someday Benjamin will be as kind as before. That's what I hoped and prayed. No one believes that Benjamin could change like this. But there was one person who might believe me. That was my uncle, Daniel. My grandparents live far away, and my parents have passed away. After the accident, I was left alone, but I had one relative I could rely on. That was my father's brother, Daniel. He had moved to New York before my father, so by chance, he lived close to our family. Daniel looks, honestly, intimidating. He's 6 feet 3 inches tall and well-built, so just standing there can be imposing. But on the inside, he's incredibly kind and wonderful. When I was young, Daniel would often play with me in place of my busy parents. Back then, I thought Daniel was unemployed. He spent that much time with me. I think he doted on me like I was his own daughter. Actually, I was the first one to ever hold Evelyn, you know. Daniel and my father would often joke and compete like that. So, after my parents passed away, it was Daniel who supported me. He took care of most of the arrangements while I was in a daze. When I couldn't even bring myself to eat, he'd make tasteless oatmeal or pasta that would fall off the fork with just a touch. It wasn't delicious, but I remember I ended up eating it anyway. It was also Daniel who found me a job when I dropped out of college after my parents' accident. I feel bad for using your connections. To my hesitation, Daniel kindly said, "Don't get it wrong, it's just an introduction. How you works from here on out is up to Evelyn. I won't know anything about it. What I couldn't repay to my parents, I want to repay to Daniel." That was my goal. I had endured living with Benjamin, who only spewed verbal abuse, but one day, Benjamin finally raised his hand to me. It might not have been intentional at first. I knew I had to be careful that day because Benjamin's mood was worse than usual. But I was also feeling unwell and didn't have the energy to deal with it. So, when Benjamin complained about everything, the dinner menu, my face, my expression, the housework, I accidentally muttered under my breath,
"Ah, enough, so annoying."
The moment those words left my mouth, I could feel the room freeze over. This is bad, I've done it now. I need to apologize quickly. I started to apologize immediately, but it was too late. A magazine flew right past my face. Benjamin, in his anger, threw it at me. "Hey! What did you just say? Did you just tell me, who's tired from work, that I'm annoying? Hey!" From there on, it was useless to say anything. Benjamin started throwing whatever was nearby, one after another. Fortunately, it seemed he still had some reason, as he only threw light or thin items. Having done it once, the barrier to doing it again must have lowered. From that day, even though he wasn't using much force, Benjamin started to raise his hand over trivial matters. Scared, I thought of consulting Daniel. Actually, Daniel works at the same company as us. He introduced me to this company because he could be more accommodating if it was his own company. Benjamin never mentioned Daniel, so he probably doesn't know we work for the same company. But I had introduced him before, so he was aware of Daniel as part of my family. I was sure Daniel would believe me. I had something like a conviction about it. But, unfortunately, Daniel was on an overseas business trip at the time. Concerned for me.
I can listen over the phone if that's okay,
Daniel said. For a moment, I thought of leaning on him, but knowing Daniel. If he found out about my situation, he might fly back. That wouldn't be fair to the company or Daniel. Reluctantly, I decided to wait for Daniel's return. I tried consulting coworkers and friends, but no one believed me, as expected. Moreover, somehow, the fact that I was talking about Benjamin reached him. Benjamin then said,
"I meant it as a form of affection."
He apparently said this with a lonely smile. Everyone completely believed this excuse. As a result, I was treated as just a woman with an overactive imagination. One day, while I was working in the room as usual, Benjamin came in. Today is unusually a work-from-home day for Benjamin as well. I knew in advance because he told me.
"I'm hungry. Where's lunch?"
Benjamin said, almost like he was throwing the words at me.
"Oh, just wait a bit. I'm working right now."
"Huh?" Benjamin let out an annoyed tone. With that voice, I immediately understood. Here it comes. The usual thing. I braced myself in an instant, preparing mentally. Usually, it's an arm or a leg. And then, Benjamin, with an unpleasant smirk, approached me.
"A housekeeper who doesn't even cook is grounds for divorce, right?"
Benjamin punched me in the stomach. I don't think he put much force into it. But that's where my precious baby is.
"Hey! Stop it!"
I was so surprised by Benjamin's unexpected behavior that I overreacted. He had never laid a hand on my stomach before, no matter what. I curled up in the chair, trying to protect my belly with my arms, encircling it. Tears welled up in my eyes from fear and anxiety. Seeing this, Benjamin let out a cheerful laugh.
"If you don't like it, just make lunch already. See, even the kid is saying, 'Poor daddy, starving because of mommy.' Ouch! Please, please stop."
How can he do such terrible things? I'm his wife, and the child in this belly is his. I couldn't understand at all.
"I don't want to do this either, you know? But what can I do? It's because you won't make lunch. Right? Poor daddy, huh?"
Even as he spoke, Benjamin's hand didn't stop. He kept hitting my stomach over and over, relentlessly. Resisting was difficult while sitting in the chair. I could only focus on defending myself.
Okay, I get it. Just stop. Just don't hit the stomach."
Screaming almost like a shriek, Benjamin finally stopped his hand.
I'm tired. Just do as you're told from the start. Make it quickly, right now."
Satisfied with his own words, Benjamin looked up contentedly. And then, he froze as he looked at the computer screen in front of him.
"What?"
Somehow, I got off the chair, kept Benjamin at bay with scissors nearby, and said,
"This time, I won't let you make excuses. Well, not that you'll need to. This has to be a lie."
The one to respond to the flustered Benjamin, turning pale, was someone on the computer.
"I wish it were a lie. I never thought you could be such a despicable person."
The one holding his head on the screen was the manager. Other employees were also looking at this with faces of disbelief.
"No, that's not true. I didn't hear anything. That's right. I was framed. I was deceived."
Trying to ingratiate himself, Benjamin clung to the computer.
"That sounds terrible. I told you, didn't I? I'm working, so wait a bit.
I haven't lied or deceived anyone. So, then you should have clearly said you were in a remote meeting. Then I would have. Benjamin started to say, but caught himself. He was about to say, then I wouldn't have hit you. Benjamin, who cares so much about his public image and how he's perceived by society. The cunning and sly Benjamin wouldn't even utter a harsh word at the company, let alone raise a hand. That's why no one believed me when I complained. I felt a sense of despair at that time. But then I thought a bit. If they wouldn't believe me, I needed proof. Knowing there was a remote meeting while Benjamin was working from home, I had secretly plotted to expose his true face. I just hadn't expected him to aim for my stomach. That was a lapse in judgment on my part. Anyway, everyone at the company is a witness now. You can't talk your way out of this. I want a divorce. I don't want to see your face ever again. But, Evelyn, I can't without you. As Benjamin let out a pitiful voice, the doorbell chimed. Trying to head there, Benjamin blocked my way, trying to stop me. Wait! We're in the middle of talking. Is it okay to raise your voice like that? The computer is still connected, you know? Ah. Distracted and flustered, Benjamin let me slip by him towards the entrance. But just before I could get away, he caught up and grabbed my arm. Stop! Let go! This spot is out of view from the computer, perfect. Hey, we need to come up with an excuse together. Should we say it was a prank? That's the safest bet. It'll be more believable coming from you, so you tell everyone. No way! I'm tired of watching your face, being worked like a slave, and living in fear. Help me. Just as I screamed inside, I heard a noise from the entrance, and then the door burst open, and someone entered. Seeing who it was, I collapsed on the spot in relief. Are you okay, Evelyn? Daniel. It seems Daniel was secretly participating in that meeting too. He must have rushed over immediately after seeing the video. It was fortunate that the entrance door was unlocked. Are you hurt? How's your stomach? Daniel rushed to my side and pulled me away from Benjamin as if rescuing me. Then, shielding me with his own body from Benjamin, he hid me behind his back. Thanks to Daniel's broad back, I couldn't see Benjamin anymore. Likely, Benjamin couldn't see me either. Daniel, Evelyn's uncle, right? Long time no see. Peeking around Daniel's back, I saw Benjamin trying to force a smile and nodding in greeting. Daniel straightened up and looked down at Benjamin. Being considerably taller, Daniel made Benjamin look very small and frail.
Evelyn, can you stand? You should rest on that sofa over there.
Ignoring Benjamin, Daniel supported me and moved to the sofa. Sitting down provided some relief. Benjamin tried to approach me, but Daniel stopped him with a threatening look.
After you rest a bit, let's go to the hospital just to be safe.
That's an overreaction. It was just a little nudge. That's part of affection, a couple's touch. How could anyone think that way about what happened? You be quiet. We'll have a thorough discussion once we've confirmed that Evelyn and the baby are safe. Don't worry, the meeting was recorded.
So you saw that because you're with the same company.
Benjamin made a fist in frustration and fell silent. Evelyn, you married quite the man. I felt sorry facing Daniel's stern look and sigh, unable to say anything. The hospital visit confirmed that the baby was fine. Relieved, I felt my whole body relax. Then, Daniel, Benjamin, and I decided to head to the company. Daniel said, "Think of the baby. Leave the rest to me." But this was a matter between Benjamin and me. Even if it's Daniel, I couldn't leave everything to him. We could have postponed it to another day, but knowing Benjamin, the more time he had, the more likely he was to come up with something. Now in the last month of pregnancy, with labor possibly starting at any time, it was best to resolve this quickly. I am a mother. I have a duty to ensure this child can be born into a safe environment. Upon arriving at the company, we were immediately led to a separate room. Daniel must have contacted them in advance. The employees present at the meeting must have also given their testimonies. In the large conference room were the meeting members, Benjamin, Daniel, and me. I took my bag from Daniel and pulled out the divorce papers. I had gotten them from the municipal office a long time ago and kept them in my bag. Benjamin looked puzzled for a moment, but then forced a troubled smile. I admit I did things that could be misunderstood. It's my fault too, so I'll accept the divorce. I have no problem with the compensation in the divorce court, and I'll pay child support. Perhaps because he was in front of everyone, Benjamin seemed unusually understanding. His acceptance made the conversation progress smoothly. However, when we reached a certain point, Benjamin froze. You want me to resign or transfer? Yes. I plan to return to work after my maternity and parental leave are over. It wouldn't be good for either of us if you were still here. That's why. I actually want you to leave. Benjamin stared at me intently and nodded. I see. But what does the company think? What are you trying to say? Not to boast, but I believe I'm a valuable asset to the company. I have good performance. No issues with interpersonal relationships. Plus, I have a wide network among peers and clients. Indeed, the outwardly competent Benjamin could be considered an ace at the company. He was what you'd call a key player. He was so well regarded that it was said it was only a matter of time before he became an executive. On the other hand, you, for better or worse, is just an ordinary female employee. Oh, I'm not trying to belittle you. Just stating the facts. I understand. Moreover, as a mother of a young child, inevitably you'll take more leaves. You'll probably end up inconveniencing the company, coworkers, everyone. This was something I had considered since becoming pregnant. Without parents, I had no one to rely on. In any situation, I had to manage on my own. While it's an unavoidable circumstance, to the company, I might be seen as a troublesome employee. I couldn't help but understand what Benjamin was trying to say. He implied that the company would choose him, the valuable ace, over me, who brought the inconvenience of potential risks, even though he had caused this issue. See? So the best thing is to forget all this and get along again. That's the best for the baby too. No, I can't do that. What? Benjamin looked utterly astounded. Just endure and accept it again? That's ridiculous. Nothing would change. Do you expect me to endure endless days of sarcasm, living like I'm in hell? At my words, employees whispered among themselves, looking puzzledly at Benjamin. Especially the female employees glared at him coldly. Well, sure, we had our disagreements as a couple. But it goes both ways. That's both ways? The balance is off. I was always the one being hurt. Benjamin seemed unable to hide his agitation against my counterattack. You're like a completely different person. What happened to you, Evelyn? That's right. I've been enduring until now. I had hoped that maybe you would change someday. But I never thought you'd lay a hand on our child. The onlookers' gazes sharpened even more. Benjamin forced an awkward smile, his forehead beading with sweat. Evelyn, that's because... Getting back to the point, shall we leave it to the company to decide who should leave?
Oh, yeah. Perhaps convinced he would be chosen.
Then, I'll go ahead and submit these divorce papers now. From this moment, you and I are strangers. Wait, Evelyn, goodbye.
I wanted to get away from him as quickly as possible. With Daniel by my side, I submitted the divorce papers. Despite Benjamin's strange confidence, it was certain he would be the one to leave. Although it felt slightly underhanded, Daniel is, after all, the CEO of our company. With the CEO on my side, the outcome was clear.
It does feel a bit unfair, though.
Muttering this, Daniel furrowed his brows sternly.
What's wrong with that? The fault lies with that man. To think he doesn't even remember the face of his own company's CEO and yet dares to call himself a valuable asset. The nerve!
I vented a little to Daniel. Daniel was red in the face with anger. Thanks to our talk, I felt much lighter. So, on the drive back from the city hall, we talked eagerly about the arrival of my child. I had no more worries. Now, I could give birth in peace. A few days later, I gave birth safely. It was a beautiful baby girl. Daniel came to the birth as well, shedding tears like he was welcoming his own grandchild. From Benjamin,
I want to meet her too.
I received a message. Has he forgotten what he did before our child was born?
It's too dangerous for you to meet her,
I replied, keeping a safe distance. While I'd prefer to cut ties completely, I left WhatsApp open as an escape route to avoid provoking him. He sends updates almost daily. After being fired, he managed to find employment in the same industry. However, due to the nature of the industry, rumors about Benjamin had already spread.
Everyone's cold to me, and I can't find a girlfriend,
he lamented. According to a coworker,
I'll never meet someone as good as Evelyn again.
Benjamin reportedly regretted his actions. If that were true, he shouldn't have done what he did. Currently, Daniel and I are discussing names for the child. We're struggling to come up with a good one. Moreover, Daniel was already head over heels.
I'm not letting this child get married off,
showing an incredible amount of adoration. Though my parents couldn't see their grandchild, I'm glad Daniel is happy. Someday, when my child starts to speak, I want her to call Daniel Grandpa. I'm sure he'll cry, despite his imposing frame. I'm looking forward to it.
It's unthinkable to ask for food money. Taking money from your family is shameful, you should realize that.
As my son's wife shouted, glaring at my husband and me, I thought to myself that what's truly unthinkable is her behavior. Unthinkable indeed, you fool. People say your daughter-in-law is a stranger, and it couldn't be more true. Such a brazen woman, she's not part of my family. The one who silenced my daughter-in-law was a single remark from our beloved grandchild. I am Lily, a 65-year-old housewife. I've been married to my husband Thomas for 40 years. We have 2 sons, both of them have their own families now. My eldest son, Michael, lives nearby. He has an 8-year-old daughter, but we rarely see her due to her busy school schedule. However, the last person you want to see is often the one who shows up uninvited. Lily, do you have anything you don't need? I'll take it off your hands. The loud one at the front door is Michael's wife, Emma. I've disliked her ever since my son married her. Looking back, she was always a bit off. She boldly asked about my husband's salary and our savings.
Emma, you shouldn't ask such things, even to family.
It can upset people, I once said to her, in a lecturing tone. Why not? We're family. My parents tell me everything. Oh, by the way, they said they hardly have any savings. Seeing her laugh, I felt drained. Later, my younger son's wife said, Lily, I need to talk to you about my sister-in-law. The content was unbelievable. At that time, she was struggling to conceive and was undergoing treatment. Why don't you have kids? You should have them while you're young. It gets harder as you get older. Such meddling made her neurotic. Even when Michael scolded his wife, she showed no remorse. I was just giving advice as a mother, she defiantly claimed. But after successful treatment, a grandson was born to my younger son. Then, this time, Emma sent a message. Just because you had a boy doesn't mean he's the heir, right? My daughter is the first grandchild and the eldest son Michael's child. To the second son's wife soon after giving birth. This incident caused my younger son's family to move away, reducing our meetings to a few times a year. Children grow up watching their parents, and looking at Emma's parents, it might not be entirely false. My husband sighed deeply. Emma's parents, living in the countryside, were equally strange. Every year at Thanksgiving, we send gifts to those who've been kind to us, including Emma's parents. One year, I received a phone call from Emma's parents. Hello? I was taken aback. So, the assortment of sweets and towels is fine, but we were thinking meat would be better, right?
What is she talking about? It's the thought that counts, and besides,
we've never received a Thanksgiving gift from Emma's parents. Yet, they had the audacity to say such things. I was hesitant, but when I told Michael about the call, he immediately scolded his wife. I should have told you what they like. Sorry. Next year, please send them their favorite things. I was stunned by her audacious response. Emma, that's not the point. We sent those gifts with love, but both my husband and I felt very offended. We never receive anything from your parents, so we'll refrain next year. We don't want to impose, I said and abruptly hung up the phone.
Emma's causing friction in our family. She's odd, we should keep our distance.
But contrary to my wishes, when my granddaughter Aria started elementary school, Michael's family moved close to our house. This house will be well taken care of by our family. Lily, you and your husband can comfortably move into a home for the elderly. When she said this with a smile, both my husband and I were speechless. In essence, she meant they wouldn't care for us but would take the house. We didn't expect care from them, especially not from Emma. But living nearby meant we'd frequent use the same supermarket. When I go shopping, there's an 80% chance I run into Emma. Oh? Lily, are you shopping too? What a coincidence, so am I. Emma says this, but I'm not a fool either. She must have seen me leaving our apartment for the supermarket. And her goal was clear, just one thing. These, I saw on TV. They were delicious. This is also recommended. And this too. She would unceremoniously add items to my shopping cart. I live with just my husband, we can't eat all of these. Even I put things back, she'd quickly return them to my cart, saying, It's fine, I'll take them, don't worry about it. Fine for what? I thought, but with neighbors and friends working at the supermarket, I couldn't raise my voice. After I paid, she brazenly opened the packages as if they were her share and stuffed them into plastic bags, then into her own shopping bags. Even with a 10-pack of eggs, she'd say, You can't eat all these, right? I'll take some. And open the pack herself. That finally made me angry. I use eggs every day, it's okay. Please give them back. And this meat too, I'll freeze any leftovers. When I said this, Michael and Aria both love eggs. I want them to eat a lot. And meat too. But, Michael's salary has been cut recently. She showed a visibly downcast appearance. Looking at her shopping bag, it was mostly discounted items. Because of her loud voice, other shoppers looked at us strangely. On a day I didn't encounter her at the supermarket, a neighbor working there stopped me to say, Can't you do something about your son's wife? Asking for more discounts, not listening when we say we don't put sale stickers on items in the cart.
Her embarrassing behavior made me feel like my face was on fire.
Give me a break. My head's going to explode.
Most of my conversations with my eldest son Michael became about his wife. That weekend, Michael and his unusually serious-faced wife Emma came over. As soon as she entered the room, "Lily, I got too comfortable thinking we're family. I'm sorry for the trouble at the supermarket. I'll refrain from such embarrassing behavior from now on."
Is this really the same woman? She seemed genuinely remorseful. I later learned from my son that they had a serious fight. He threatened divorce if there wasn't an improvement, which seemingly changed her attitude. Life was peaceful for a while. But people don't change that easily. After that, I felt awkward using the supermarket, so I started ordering groceries online. Then, my son's wife began bringing my granddaughter Arya to visit regularly.
"Grandma, I drew this."
She showed us a well-drawn picture.
"Oh my. Arya, your colored pencils are quite short," I remarked.
I want to buy her new pencils, but things are tough. Sorry, Arya.
Emma interjected. Seeing this, my husband took out his wallet. "Here, buy Arya some new pencils with this," and gave her a small amount of money. She continued visiting, saying Arya's shoes were too small or she needed new clothes, always appealing to us. Sometimes she'd boldly enter our kitchen and ask, "Do you have anything you don't need?"
"Hey, is Michael's company really struggling that much? And if life is so hard, why doesn't Emma work? She's been a housewife since marriage, at home during the day."
My daughter-in-law, Emma, has been a housewife ever since she got married, and seemed to be at home during the day. If she could use that time for part-time, her life would be a little easier. My husband and I often discussed this. That's the point. Then, out of the blue, my eldest son's family came over.
"We're thinking of moving in here."
A completely unexpected proposition. My husband and I exchanged glances.
Sorry to spring this on you, Dad, Mom. Emma suddenly started insisting on living together.
See, you got your way. Let's go home. My son tried to take her home, but she stubbornly refused, and it was getting nowhere. My husband, having had enough, said,
"If you're that insistent, we won't ask for rent. But you'll have to split the food costs with us. We're living on a pension, after all."
Then, she stopped in her tracks.
"It's unthinkable to ask for food money. Taking money from your family is shameful, you should realize that."
She came back with an outrageous response. "Aren't you the one who should be embarrassed?" And then,
"If that's how you feel, then we are done as of today. And of course, I'll never let you see Arya again."
I watched her fury in silence. Thinking back, ever since she came into our lives, I've never had a day of peace. I've tolerated her because she's my eldest son's choice, but now I've reached my limit. I'll only cut ties with her alone and secretly ask Michael to let us meet our granddaughter. When I was thinking this,
"Hey, what does disowning mean? Like, not seeing each other anymore? If that's the case, I want to disown Mom."
Everyone was shocked by my granddaughter Arya's words.
"Eh? Arya, what are you saying?"
Especially Emma, who looked astonished.
"Because, Mom, do you know what my friends call you? The beggar. Sometimes they laugh at me, and I don't want to go to school. The one who's embarrassing is you."
Arya's face looked like she was about to cry. Apparently, Emma had been making begging attacks on the parents of Arya's friends too.
"Besides, you buy things you like, but my clothes and shoes are old. You said you'd buy me new colored pencils, but you never do."
Hearing this, I asked,
"Eh? What do you mean? We gave you money to buy Arya colored pencils, didn't we? I can't believe it, but did you use it for yourself?"
My eldest son's wife made an uncomfortable face and replied,
"No. I used it for living expenses. It's hard to get by on just Michael's salary. My son immediately said, "What money? And you always say that, so I've been working hard. I've been promoted twice since we got married. How much do you need to be satisfied? Or is this about divorce? I told you, if you cause any more trouble for my family or others, there won't be a next time. Above all, you've hurt Arya. You're a failure as a mom." With his cold words, Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But I can't help it. We were poor growing up. I couldn't have what I wanted. Now I'm an adult. I want to eat and buy what I like. What's wrong with that?" To her, crying hysterically, I said, "Don't be ridiculous. Making your child suffer while satisfying your own desires is just an excuse. I have no blood relation to you, and I would have welcomed a good daughter-in-law, but honestly, I only care about Michael and Arya. A foolish woman like you, I disown you." And with that, she was taken back home by Michael. She probably thought living in our house would save on living expenses. What a joke. We decided to take care of our granddaughter Arya for a while. Because Emma had said, "You're an ungrateful child for repaying kindness with ingratitude." To her daughter. Thinking she is doing her child a favor just shows she is finished as a mom. Emma insisted on not divorcing, but my son ignored her and forcibly sent her back to her parents' home. Of course, we got many calls from her ridiculous parents, but we ignored them all. The divorce wasn't easy and went to mediation. But thankfully, my son got custody. That's because her arguments were terrible, all about wanting to stay a housewife and not wanting to divorce, with no thought for Arya. Also, my son hadn't told us, but he had been living a repressed life, documented in his diaries. It was also discovered that Emma had been secretly saving a lot of money in her own bank account, which worked in my son's favor regarding the distribution of property. Honestly, I didn't want to give that woman a cent. My son Michael and granddaughter Arya moved out of their apartment to live with us.
Arya, I'm so sorry for making you feel lonely with all my work. I'm really happy you want to live with me.
My son was crying with happiness. Arya looked a bit shy. I thought peaceful days were finally here, but then, a few months later, some unwelcome visitor started ringing our doorbell incessantly while my son was at work and my granddaughter at school. "What?" Looking at the monitor, I saw an unexpected figure. "What do you want?" "Everything's been settled, right?" Opening the door, there stood Emma, my former daughter-in-law, and her parents, faces filled with anger. "Settled? Don't be ridiculous. Why haven't you paid child support?" Emma's mom's words confused us. "Excuse me? We're raising Arya here. If Emma were to pay, maybe, but why should we?" My husband glared at the three of them, baffled. Then Emma's dad said, "Emma has no income after the divorce. For the time being, your son should be taking care of her. That's why he needs to pay child support for Emma." Behind her parents, my ex-daughter-in-law looked at me triumphantly. We couldn't help but laugh at such ridiculous statements. You might want to look up what child support means. How old is your daughter?" "All I see is a healthy adult woman over 30. Did you really pay travel expenses just to come here and say something so foolish?" Following me, my husband added, "What you're doing is extortion. Now that we're divorced, we're strangers. We won't hesitate to call the police next time. To be honest, I've never once considered you family." He then pulled out his mobile phone. Seeing this, they panicked. "Police? That's ridiculous. We're leaving." And they left hastily, almost fleeing. Watching them go, we mused. Those parents seemed normal until the marriage, but you really can't understand people. Child support for a wife? Never heard of such a thing. That woman, crazy till the end. We laughed for a while, remembering their foolish faces. Apparently, Emma's family was struggling financially. Unbeknownst to us, they had been recipients of TANF for years, receiving it under the pretense of the dad's mental illness. However, it was revealed as fraud following an anonymous tip. They were all healthy, they should have been working. It's infuriating to think such people were getting money meant for those truly in need. They were working and paying fines for a while, but people don't change easily. They were arrested for theft a few months later. They're strangers now, but I hope they continue to struggle. As for us, we've been living peacefully as if it was all a lie. Arya has brightened up and brings friends home more often. Furthermore, my younger son's family decided to move back here for his job transfer. I've been in touch with my daughter-in-law.
Lily, please teach me cooking again. My son is thrilled that he'll get to see everyone more. And he's so excited to play with his cousin Arya after we move.
Looking back, I saw the grandchildren playing happily together, a smile naturally forming on my face. Then, 3 years after the divorce, my son Michael remarried. Her name is Elizabeth, introduced by a friend. She was mistreated by her ex-husband and his family for not being able to have children. Elizabeth is kind and gentle, getting along well with my younger son's wife. Above all, I miss my grandchild Arya very much, and we prepare meals together.
Arya shyly called me Mom for the first time the other day. I thought I would never be able to be Mom, so I was so happy.
Elizabeth teared up as she told me. I gently patted her back. I'm truly happy that someone as kind-hearted as you became Michael's wife and Arya's mom. Thank you, Elizabeth. Soon, my son's family will move to a new home. Not too far from here. Michael and Arya had a hard time with his ex-wife, but with Elizabeth, they'll surely have peaceful days. My husband and I are planning to start a small garden when we're alone. It seems we'll be able to spend our old age in peace. Thinking about this, I savored our current happiness.